I'm Alex Benson,
And I'm Jared Weiss.
and we are Ethereal Sunrise.
I believe we are here today to talk about the third song off of the album, Lady Picasso. You can hear the song and the album Steady as Rock as a whole on any major music streaming or download platform, or find links to a lot of those on our social media pages. And I'm going to toss it back to Alex, who is going to grill me about all my terrible decisions.
That's right. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time.
Yeah,
So,
okay, Phil
Jared,
Collins.
yeah, that's right. That's right. This is all a Phil Collins tribute album. Is really what's going on here.
Right.
Um, so can you share a little bit about what was the process of writing this song?
Sure. I kind of have two ways that I usually write songs. One is I'll hear a melody or I'll hear a chord pattern or some snippet of the song I'll hear in my head, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that sounds fun," and I'll try and figure out how to play it. And then the second form is I'm just noodling on the guitar and I come across something I like. This started as the second variety. I think it was the verse chord progression I stumbled upon first, which I mean it's only six chords, I think, 6 or 7 chords, going C minor, B flat, G minor. It goes back to the B flat, then A minor to kind of a G major chord. So I kind of liked that switch. And I was like, this is something I could work with. I think this is the year that Alex, you and I had recently gone to see King Crimson
Hmm.
in Philadelphia, where we had met. They did a couple of cuts from Lizard, uh, including Circus. For anyone who hasn't listened to Circus, it's appropriately weird. And I like I was influenced by the structure of it a lot, where the verse is kind of this, reasonably straightforward, accessible melody. And then the B section is entirely instrumental. It's got this kind of ominous, dissonant riff that just builds with each successive iteration over the course of the song. So that ended up being the influence for the rest of the song's musical development. As I developed the verses more, I increasingly drew upon Neil Young's grungier era for kind of the roughness of the tone, um, the distorted lead lines that kind of build over top of it. I also think my vocal sound can be Neil Young-esque at times, so it kind of fit that you know non-harsh tenor type vocal with kind of this harsh sound underneath. So that kind of became my Neil Young King Crimson mashup, which definitely is what everyone was looking for. Um,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, yeah. And then just for good measure, I wrote this kind of jazzy bass line under it. I don't know why. I was like, this fits the chords, and I don't think I'd really developed the rest of the song around it. I'm not sure if I knew how grungy I was going to end up wanting the verses to be, but I'd already written the bass part, and I don't know, I liked it. So you end up having this this jazzy bass part, and it's also very melodic. In the verses, which I think serves as maybe a nice counterbalance to the simplicity of the rhythmic structure and your lead guitar lines over the verses. Um, so it's a weird song. I was looking to get into the business of writing weirder songs, especially for this album, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. I do basically I'm on bass, I'm on vocals, I'm rhythm guitar, and Alex, you're doing most of the lead guitar work throughout. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So this was one of the most fun songs for me to do my recording for because when you're the one who's written the song, sometimes you have a very clear vision as to what you want, and so when you're struggling to actually achieve that, it can be very frustrating. Whereas when you're not the one who's written it and you're just still go do things. It's much more freeing to just sort of see what comes up. So it was very liberating for me to just sort of be able to um, add some flavor onto something that was already there. And this is one of my favorite songs on the album, in large part because it is sort of strange, but it has such a strong melody, and it has such a strong contrast between the sort of grungy, distorted atmosphere with this really sort of clear, soaring melody that comes from both the vocals, some of the lead guitar work, and also even the bass on the verses as well. Um, and so that was a lot of fun to be able to do that, especially at the end we get to this guitar solo, which was one of the more fun solos for me to record. Because oftentimes when I'm doing the guitar solos, I'll play the part through a few times and sort of just improvise over them to try to see if I can identify any riffs or anything that I want to maybe start building something on. But for this song specifically, I think particularly given the lyrical content, I really wanted to avoid having a strictly composed solo or even something that sounded like maybe it was composed. I wanted to be very much just improvised. So this was one that I only played through it a couple of times because I wanted to capture that sort of chaotic, not quite figured out sense to it. And it's also because it's so kind of harmonically strange. It was also freeing to not necessarily use, just like a straight diatonic sort of scale patterns, but also to sort of just use weird chromaticisms and tritones and other sorts of bizarre things that just really, it definitely makes it kind of jump out at you. Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember, particularly with the end solo, just telling you to do something completely bonkers. And I also don't think I gave you any real guidance as to like, well, what key. I mean, because it is very much a chromatic pattern in terms of what the guitar and bass are doing underneath. I think if I had to guess, it the first part's mostly behaving in the realm of E minor, and then the second part kind of gets into B flat territory, and those two don't often go together unless you're listening to King Crimson, in which case they go together frequently. Um, so you just kind of took it and ran with it, which was great. Um, you mentioned the lyrics a little bit, and that seems as good a segue as any. Without getting too much into specifics, this is about someone with bipolar disorder. This is about someone having a manic episode. All the lyrics were inspired by real things this person said. Um, I mean, this was a very remarkable individual that I had met. Very, very, very smart. Um, very able to kind of justify and conceptualize their episode in a way that made sense to them and was really, really hard to uh, to refute or to sort of help them see in what ways their illness may have been damaging to them, damaging to the people around them. It was a very memorable encounter that we had. And again, I liked in the final verse, she says basically, you think I'm weird, take a look at what's going on around in the world around us. And I think that kind of captures the zeitgeist of the moment a little bit. I mean, it's true. I wrote this I met this person in 2017, late 2017. I think I wrote the song in early 2018. Especially here in the United States, this was a very strange time in which to be living, and for someone who was experiencing such strangeness of their own to be able to say, I'm nothing, look at the world around us, says, I think, as much about the world around us as it does about her. So yes, the tying that back into the guitar work, particularly as the song develops, I wanted it to sound more and more. I mean, it's tightly structured, it's tightly wound, but I wanted it to sound more and more like it was in danger of coming off the rails the further along you went. And I think the end solo does a nice job with that. I'll also bring Phil Collins back into it because there's a composed uh, lead line over the B section, the instrumental section, um, that it was influenced actually by a lead line late in the Jeff Beck group song, "Definitely Maybe," um, which kind of sounds a little off time with the rest of the song, even though it isn't. And I I played it what I wanted Alex to do, and it sounds kind of similar to Genesis's "Home by the Sea." Uh, and when Alex played it on the recording, he heard play "Home by the Sea" and didn't notice that it was technically supposed to be slightly different. There was supposed to be a note or two that was swapped out, and then he just played "Home by the Sea" with a beat pulled out because it's not in the same time signature. Um, and we kept it. So Phil Collins, since we know you're watching this video, please don't sue us. Consider it an homage uh, in 13/4 because we think you'd appreciate that. um, so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the song. I'm very proud of it. Um, it I wrote it even though the album was not something we had agreed to do at the time. I wrote it with a deliberate mind towards embracing more of Alex's songwriting feel, if you will, and with the sense that perhaps we would one day do something with it. And I'm very glad that we did.
Yeah, it definitely brings sort of the heavier elements and proggier elements while still remaining, very melodic. And I remember this is another song in which there was not a plan for the flute to be on it.
Oh
Um,
yes, forgot about that.
that yeah, with that sort of melodic bridge in the middle, and it was just something that I was like, well, I kind of hear that there would be a flute line on that, and so I put it on there and was like, well, you can keep it there or you can get rid of it.
Right. Originally, I think there was supposed to be kind of like a arpeggiated piano part over that brief break where it's just the guitar and the vocal. Um, and we do a lot of our keyboards. We design it through the recording software we use. We don't, neither of us, strictly speaking, play piano or the keyboards, that we know enough about where the notes are to create parts. Um, but in such a stripped away part of the song, I wasn't very satisfied with, you really needed a pianist's ability to imbue each note with the dynamic nuance that was required. So I scrapped the piano, and Alex said, "Let me try the flute." I'm glad he did because it allowed us to continue the streak of having a flute on every song, which Alex foolishly would go on to break in the home
Yeah,
stretch of the
yeah,
album.
yeah.
But I think it works well, and again, it sets up, it reinforces that nice contrast between very melodic, like these melodic components, these softer components, and then just that harder dissonant edge that's present for a lot of it. I think this is also the first song that on the album that utilizes the mellotron. I don't have anything else to say about that. I just think it's worth noting.
Yeah. We're both big fans of Mellotron and are surprised it took 3 songs into the album to get to it.
Indeed. In all seriousness, I think this song sort of marks the entry point into kind of the weirder material on the album. We wanted listeners, especially those who might not be as big into prog, to kind of dip their toes in the water with two of the more accessible numbers before we let things start getting a little more out there. So there's more to come. Well, I think we'll stop it there. Again, if you have left this video minutes ago to just go listen to the song and stop hearing our voices, no one blames you. If you haven't yet, feel free to go do so. We'd love for you to hear the song, the whole album. You can follow us on social media. where we have links to where you can find all this stuff, or you can just search any major music download or streaming platform, Ethereal Sunrise, Lady Picasso, or Ethereal Sunrise, Steady as Rock to find this stuff. All right. Again, I'm Jared.
And I'm Alex.
And we are Ethereal Sunrise. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one.